So we're going to go into a video today on what it means to A, build your foundation so that you can build your whole empire that you're trying to build in your life on that powerful foundation, but B, what is your main job in life? And what I'm going to start off by saying is that what you believe is important in your life, given the system that you've come up in, the fact that it's very, very sick and twisted, your priorities are probably very, very skewed, and your understanding what is good or bad is probably very, very skewed. And it's taken me years to sort that out myself. That's why I say that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what I've experienced in my own life. But second of all, your job is to create beautiful experiences around you and have great energy around you and to cordon off the bad energy. That's really your job. And so when you understand this, okay, when you understand that A, you've got to have the right foundation, and B, you've got to have the right walls, that is something that will realign your priorities in a way where you can live a much, much better life. Now, I'm going to crack into this by a hilarious phone call with a buddy of mine. And he's somebody who's very wealthy and somebody who's very successful. He lives on the East Coast, he lives in New York, the kind of guy that's up at Davos, like what you might know as like the Bilderberg group, but that's the front-facing view of it. So he's very, very much a part of the establishment and the establishment elite. He's not at the top of it, but he's in those circles. So we were having a great conversation today. I think you'll enjoy this video. What's up, bro? Because it's sort of a summary of it. So he's looking to actually get his dating life together, but we're gonna use dating life and having a spouse really as a metaphor for this whole thing. And so he said, look, I was out in Saint-Tropez and I met a model who goes to Harvard, and I want to meet more people like that, like model, Harvard model, that kind of thing, maybe famous, maybe part of the elite. And I said, listen, what you're not understanding is that you yourself, and he's a brilliant guy who's done incredibly professionally accomplished, is that you yourself, you haven't really had a lot of time to examine what your foundation is. So you don't fully know what life is all about. You're sort of in this Davos thing, you're in these elite circles, so you're thinking that climbing those rungs in those elite circles is the best thing. Now, I know a lot about this because many of my private clients go to things like Davos, and I also came up in Summit Series, which was kind of like Davos for millennials back when I was younger for a long time. So I've had a chance to be around a lot of this. I coach, many of the people that run a lot of the biggest companies that you see now. I see what kind of inner maps they deal with, what kind of outer kind of train that they're traveling through. And I do a lot of one-on-one coaching on this. I actually started doing that during COVID. I wasn't huge into one-on-one coaching. I've always done it, but I got really, really into it during COVID when we were locked down. So it became like a full-time thing. I was doing it like morning till night, just kind of tapping into the top 0.1% of my list and the people who like my stuff. So I got into doing that. So what I explained was, you're thinking that life is about coming up through the establishment and that's what life is all about, when in reality, financial success or that kind of prestige is only part of it. So if you're looking for a significant other, you've got to realize that who that person is on a soul level, who they are in their core essence, what are their core values? Are they able to be at peace? Are they able to be around prosperity and not throw a monkey wrench in it? You've got to understand that you think, for example, that if you became very, very wealthy, that would make the people, but that would create an environment for the people in your life, your intimate partner, your friends, business partners, that they would actually be more at peace, life would be easier. But that's not really the case. That is not actually what is going on. Okay, in fact, often what happens is that when you create prosperity, because most people are addicted on problems and addicted on negativity, and they can't handle that level of prosperity, it actually creates more chaos. It causes the person to be it's like taking a fish out of water, and the fish is used to being in water. You say, hey, come live on, on dry land, in this, on a beautiful beach. And the fish is like, look, I'm kind of just used to being in the water. So you're destabilizing people's personal ecosystem, which could be an ecosystem of negativity, of scarcity, of drugs and alcohol, things like that, right? And they can't handle it coming into an ecosystem of prosperity. And then they go loco when you bring them into that. So you're thinking like, say you yourself, you see, I don't know, say it's some guy and he has a new girlfriend. And you're like, ooh, like, let's see how she looks. How she looks, or if she went to Harvard or has a modeling contract, is a very, very small percentage of whether or not that person's peace of mind has been enhanced. Whether or not that person, their net plus minus of positive emotions has been enhanced. Their happiness might actually be negative, right? They might actually be at a net negative, where the physical intimacy is very, very good. Oh, you're with someone who's attractive. It's a model. They go to Harvard, right? Which I've gone out in Harvard many times. A lot of people there are very academically intelligent, often lack social intelligence. But Are they filling you up with pain? And so on and so forth. So notice that his foundation of what his values are hasn't been built, but also his boundaries, he doesn't even know who he's letting in through the wall. Now, I'm talking about this because we're going to be creating a program called Endless Motivation. Click the link below if you want to be a part of that. You might be the right fit. And I'm going to put this out in a video format, and I'm probably even going to do some mentoring on it. I'm kind of building this up now, and I'll release my plans upon it soon. If you're seeing this later, which inevitably most people will, click the link below. You'll see what I did with it. And so the idea of having endless motivation is that you've got to get clear time, clear focus, and clear momentum. So let's say, for example, that you let in this Harvard model, and your foundation is that you think that's the best thing. And then you let in this Harvard model in through the walls. Well, what's happening now is that, yeah, they could be great. Just because someone's a Harvard model doesn't mean they're bad. But it could very, very easily mean, in fact, that what you think is good is wrong because your foundation's wrong, and who you let in is going to create chaos. So for 20 minutes a day, ooh, the intimacy, it feels good. Then when you take photos with this person, it looks good. You look great. You look super cool. You have status among your peer group. But for the rest of the day, they're going crazy. They're not built to be in an environment like that. But the truth is, are you even built for it? So that's whether or not you have the boundaries and you let them in, but the foundation itself is you and what are your core values. So the way that you want to think about it is that the 20 minutes or even hour a day that you're with someone who's very, very attractive, that's nice, and the photos are nice. But more important in your life is an audit of the plus, minus, negative that person is bringing into your life. And you need to do that plus, minus, negative with your food. You need to do that plus, minus, negative with your job. You need to do that plus, minus, negative with your belief systems, and so on and so forth. Okay, you've got to do that. Now, what would it mean to create a very, very powerful foundation? Let's go into that first, and then we're going to go deeper. A very, very powerful foundation is something that you're going to be drawn away from in our society because of the fact that a lot of the powerful core values that built this society have been subverted in many ways. So what I'd recommend for you to do, and you're going to hate this if you're not into it, you're going to hate it, is that even if you're into building your business, even if you're out, you're into going out and hitting the club and meeting new people, even if you're on your grind, take a step back and stop building this big building on a house of sand. Instead, a great starting point, in my view, into building a powerful foundation is Eckhart Tolle. Read The Power of Now and a New Earth. It's kind of retail version, bubblegum version of having a deep foundation. And he'll talk about what it means to get present to the moment, what it means to get into the now, why your foundation has to be staying present to the moment. That's your primary purpose. And your secondary purpose is the action that you take so that it is based on that foundation. That's a great starting point. Then if you want to see where Eckhart got a lot of his ideas, you can read a book like The Tao Te Ching. Go read The Tao Te Ching. It's often spelled the Tao Te Ching. And go look at that. And that is a book that is very poetic. And it's written in these kind of like one-page little, it's kind of like a poem. I don't know what to call it. But you read it, and it forces you to think about it. And you have to sit there sometimes for maybe an hour thinking about that one page and what it means. And then you read through that. And you're going to come back to these books many, many times. Then you might want to go read, if you want to see a little bit of where Eckhart got his ideas, the Bhagavad Gita. And what that talks about is the idea of the process itself being the beauty of life. It says that you're entitled to the process, not to the result. And then people hear that and they say, oh no, it's all about results. And it's like, you don't get it, that if you actually focus on the process, you get 10x the results. So that's your foundation. Likewise, the Tao Te Ching, it gets you to realize what is the moving rhythm of life. Okay, I didn't mention what the Tao Te Ching is all about, right? It's the moving rhythm of life. So again, Power of Now and a New Earth by Eckhart Tolle creates the foundation of present energy and not being trapped in your mind as being a foundation. The Tao Te Ching showing you about the rhythms of life as a foundation, and the law of less effort as a foundation. And then the Bhagavad Gita talking about the process. Then read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Go and read those. Read those. Maybe, it might take you 8 hours. I think David Suchet as an audiobook is the best. David Suchet, you can find him on social media. You might even want to get the proper audiobook. He is like the Michael Jordan of readers of the Bible. Go to Book of Matthew, Book of Luke, Book of Mark, Book of John, and read those. And, it's maybe 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of going through it at 1x speed, and then maybe spend 2 hours a night going through it for maybe a year. And just let it marinate and take root in you. And what that talks about is the sixth system, and how the system has a lot of people that are virtue signaling that are not really good at their core, and what it means to stop just virtue signaling and stop trying to be popular in the establishment like Davos or things like that, realizing how sick that is, even though there could be some good components to it, you don't need to put out the baby with the bathwater and then saying to yourself, why gain the world when you're going to lose your soul? And so these are things that you're going to look at as a very, very powerful foundation. Then you can look at books like, that are based on these ideas, like Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or Crucial Conversations. You can look at very, very powerful marketing books, Dan Kennedy, John Carlton, I mentioned many, many times. And you can also look at a lot of powerful books about nutrition and learn about how to give yourself energy and to fortify your health. And so a lot of this is building that foundation. Then look at things like, say that you're my friend, looking at maybe, if you're looking to have a family, at what does it mean to have somebody who's a good mother? Get around people that have a spouse that is a good mother. Spend a day with them, spend a week with them. Look at how the kids get all crazy, and then say to yourself, is that somebody who I could have help raise my children? Realize many of the models that you might meet at the club, you bring them in your life, it can be chaos. Look up, say, Stephanie Seymour. Look that up, and what her super rich husband has experienced, and it always takes two to tango. I'm not blaming her at all. It's probably both. But is that the kind of marriage that you want? And look up things like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and see what's going on there. Realize, what is it that you're bringing in? Well, again, if your foundation isn't built, then you don't realize what it is that you're bringing in. And so in addition to that, you want to have it to where, number one, your foundation is that you've cleared the muck off of the windshield of your life. All these phantoms that the society's got you chasing that have, some good pragmatic benefits and whatnot. Of course they do, being part of the elite or being rich or things like that. Great, there's a lot of opportunities there. Anybody who says not is lying to themselves and lying to others. But that can't be the foundation. That could be perhaps, something that is in service of what life is really all about. But that can't be what life is really all about. And again, if you don't check back and look at that foundation, you're really good. It's like a big log. You're just going to start cracking you in the head, and you're going to really pay. If you build, your house on an improper foundation, somebody's going to come knock it down, and your biggest regret was that you didn't have that correct foundation. It's like building your sense of self-esteem on the feedback of others, right? Eventually, you're going to lose that. You didn't build the right foundation. But see, it's that foundation itself that allows you to have discernment, because when your mind isn't being pulled in a million different directions and you're truly connected to what matters and you're truly connected to source, then what winds up happening is you have better discernment, okay? Because your will is unclouded and unpolluted, or at least much more so than the average person. It's always a work in progress your whole life. And now you have discernment. What are some things that in your discernment you might need to notice? Well, let me give you a couple things. One of them would be that when you get into a relationship with somebody, you're dealing with their trauma. So you're looking at somebody initially and you're thinking, okay, they like me. You don't realize that it could be that their trauma energy is drawn to you. Let's say that you're somebody who does have good boundaries and they have a trauma of abandonment. Well, they may start chasing you because they know that they can first love bomb you, make you feel so in love, give you the best 6 months of your life, but then start getting crazy, in which case you're somebody who has boundaries. You draw a boundary, and then that actually feeds their trauma of being abandoned. Then, of course, what they do is they want to get back into showing you that they want to get within good behavior, so they come back 10 times better. Then you fall in love with them 10 times more, and then boom, they get you again. And they get it to the point that you can't, and again, your job, what is it? It's to have boundaries against negativity. Your job is to create a lot of financial prosperity, a lot of health, a lot of positivity, a lot of focus, a lot of momentum. You want to be, your job as a leader is to create this kind of well-time managed, high focus for when you need it, because everything gets done with focus, and high momentum state where, the money's going up, everybody around you is getting more safety, prosperity, knowledge is going up, love is going up, beautiful moments are going up, special moments are increasing, you're getting around better and better people, opportunities are increasing, you're seeing more beautiful things, you are evolving, you're spiritually elevating, you're elevating in your health and nutrition. You've got to, it's your job for your little empire, your little personal empire, to create those walls and to keep out the bad and to foster the growth and health of the good. That's both in your own psychology and your own physical safety and finance and your own soul, but that's also in the people that you're involved with. And so you might have a significant other, like my friend that wants the Harvard model, and they can become a distraction to the point where you're never able to get in true momentum. You're never able to truly manage your time. You're never ever able to truly focus. And so, you jumpstart, you're making progress. Oh, meltdown. Oh, negativity. Oh, they have trauma. So now their trauma will give you no quarters. It's going to pop out at any given time. You see? Or there's another one where, for example, that person could be a 10 in real life, but if in their mind they're a 7, and they see you acting in a way that leads you to becoming a 10, and for your tribe to becoming a 10, they can panic because they're afraid that they're going to lose you. So now they start throwing crazy fits, right? So it's almost like when you get too low, your partner might do a congruence test to see if you're still really strong, and if you pander and self-qualify and self-justify, they actually lose attraction for you. So then they get super crazy, and so you're kind of getting weakened, and then they start complaining, and then you start addressing their complaints, but their complaints aren't real. They're just seeing if you're strong or not, because it's a congruence test, because you're going down. But also if you go up, they can get crazy, and say that you're at 8 headed to a 10, they start getting crazy. But then what happens? Then you start addressing it like, baby, what is it? Trying to address it at a surface level, but they're afraid that you're going to leave them by getting too high. Meanwhile, what is it that you're trying to do? You're trying to create this beautiful garden, right? And so if you start to go down, and then the close people in your life see that you're weakened, and start creating chaos and more chaos and more chaos, you can get taken down all the way to where you're bankrupted and you start becoming suicidal. And there's people that go down like that and wind up ending their own lives. All because they let the wrong people in the boundaries, inside the castle walls. They let in the toxin, the pollute inside the castle walls. But why? Because they didn't have the right foundation. They didn't know what's important. They got duped by the looks, by the status, whatever, or some other thing. Could be whatever that duped you. In my case, I have kind of savior syndrome. I look for people that have had like a really, really hard time, and I want to show them a better life. And then, they're happy to be a part of that. But then over time, it could devolve, and then I don't want to give up because I want to save them. So that's my thing, right? My friend, the Harvard model, me, it's like someone to save. And I get joy from showing somebody who had a hard time a good time. For me, just finding the Harvard model and showing them a good time, it's like they've had that. I like to find someone that had a hard time in life and making their life beautiful, and I get joy from that because it's almost like the pain that I had if someone would have come and saved me. But in my case, at a certain point, I got to say, you know what? Stop trying to save everybody. If they want to be saved, they would have done it themselves. These people are not dumb. I'm basically calling them dumb by thinking I need to save them. If they want to save themselves, there's plenty of resource. They could have done it. Maybe just have fun with them and just accept them for where they're at. But you don't need to let them inside the castle walls. But again, that's in my foundation. That's in my unhealed trauma. That's in my pain. You see what's going on there, right? So that's where the foundation comes from. And then that's where we make mistakes. So realize that the discernment, you've got to realize somebody could be into you, but they're into you because of trauma. They're into you because their trauma meshes with your trauma. So you probably shouldn't let them inside the castle walls. You should take a pause, relax a little bit before you do that. So that's the trauma component. Likewise, it can be biological. You're either too high, which it makes them insecure, makes them want to disrupt your momentum, or you get too low, in which case they could start piling onto you and get more crazy and more angry. And then when you're destroyed, they just leave you anyway. You're like, but I thought I at least had this. If I let this in the gates, no, you don't even have that. Right? They put you in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. You're in a double bind. If you stay there trying to help them with their issues, then you'll fail. Then they leave you. But then if you just keep moving up, you feel bad, and then you separate anyway, you feel bad too. You're in a double bind. But the problem was your foundation wasn't right in the first place. You let the wrong person in the gates. So that's what's happening there. Okay? So you've got to begin to have discernment, recognize the you're seeing someone you see someone who you'd like to be with, and you're like, oh, that'd be amazing. But that's not true, because what it's doing is it's disrupting anything that is leading to high focus, high time management, high clear time, and high momentum, which is how you build that amazing life. It's how you get the time to even sit there reading these abstract books for 2 hours a day to build your foundation. It's how you get the focus to build that multi-million-dollar business, how you get the momentum. Because what is momentum at its core? Momentum at its core is you breaking out of autopilot. It's you breaking out of this kind of ongoing autopilot thing, and it's you kind of, like in a state of high momentum, it's almost like the plane is, when the plane's on the ground, it kind of can't move around that much. But in momentum, it's like, it can move around, right? You're in that momentum state. And in that state, you could build just about anything. You could do just about anything. It's incredible what you're capable of. But if every time you get into momentum, you got to stop and you're being poisoned, then you don't get there. Now, I've used relationships a lot in this series because I feel like that's something everybody can relate to. But many of my relationships have been amazing. So I'm using that as a way to relate to you. But many of these other things are more abstract. They're harder to see. How is your food that you're letting in the gates creating a problem? Why is your foundation flawed that you're letting in the wrong food? How would it be, for example, that the literature or ideas that you're taking in are training you to have a low attention span? They're training you to get easy dopamine spikes. Your foundation's flawed because you think that that's good and then your boundaries are off. You see what's going on here? How about just the general thoughts that you're letting flutter around in your mind? How about your habits day to day? So everything in being motivated is this. In a high momentum state where you have focus and you're able to get at it, you're not going to struggle with motivation. It's easy. If me and you are, say that we go do a trip of Greece, we're in Mykonos, And we're sitting there out of the best clubs. And every day we just wake up and we just go smash it at the club. And we're meeting amazing people. We're in a high momentum state. Do you really need to be motivated at that point? Or are you in a high momentum state? If you and I are vibing off each other very, very well, and we're building a business together, and every day we wake up and we're optimistic about it and we're bought in, or do we struggle? But the problem is that you're like a balloon, and that balloon is trying to move up, but it's all of these little tethers that are basically distracting you, but they feel good. The Harvard model, it feels so good. It looks so good. It looks like a solution. Back when you had no social skills, you probably thought to yourself, if I just had that one person in my life, just that one, even if I didn't make money, even if I was miserable, even if they browbeat me, just the pleasure of having somebody that attractive in my life and the ego kick of it, it'd be worth it. But what winds up happening is, funny enough, is that, in my own case, there's people that I've moved out of my life where, I'm sitting here at 42, literally, the pot belly, balding, all that. Back when I was 21, 22, in much better shape, full head of hair, and looked better, back then I would have given up my whole life to be the slave and to pander to somebody who was going to act like that, and it would have been worth it, and I would have been so happy. But as you get older and you learn how to bring in better people, and you start to refine what your foundation is and what you want out of life, and then you start to have better boundaries, better castle walls, you realize that a lot of these things that you let in are smoke and mirrors, and they're pulling around your core essence in a million different directions, and they're probably not doing it on purpose, but they themselves have a flawed foundation, or have had it thrust upon them, sadly, and tragic, horrible things done to them, but they're dealing with that, and then their boundaries are down. They may be letting in all these drugs. They may be letting in all this alcohol. They may be letting in all this negativity. They might be getting dopamine by trash talking other people, bonding with other people by triangulating and making people that want to help them bad and things like that, which is super common. So their foundation's flawed, their boundaries are flawed, and they don't realize, they think that when they're sitting there getting drunk or high or trash talking somebody or looking at TikTok, they think that they're just burning down 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. But what they're doing is they're killing their momentum, killing their focus, training themselves off of momentum, training themselves off of focus, and what they don't realize is that negativity can compound and positivity can compound. So if you get into an upward spiral, the amount of prosperity that you could have is insane. The amount of dating options, the amount of social options, the amount of happiness, the amount of spiritual growth, it gets so crazy. But the problem is when you're living in a world where you don't have the right foundation, so you don't even know what you want to let in, and you're lacking the boundaries, your personal castle is being pulled around in too many different directions. And as a result of that, life gets worse and worse and worse. And that's where you see people where just at a soul level, they've just been run through. They've been run through. They've been rode hard and put away wet. They've been run through. They've been chewed up and spit out. Walk down the street and ask yourself if the average person that you see, whether it's Walmart or downtown, whatever, is really in a high thriving state, in a high momentum state, in a high focus state, managing their time well, having boundaries, having a very, very powerful base to build on top of. And just start looking at that and getting a sense of where they're coming from. And then you wonder why it is that people struggle with motivation. Now, I have so many different secrets for motivation for somebody who's in that state to get good. And I'm going to share that with you, okay? Click the link below if you want to learn more about that in endless motivation. Click that link. We'll make something happen. But realize that if we're being honest, it is about what is going on inside your psyche, and then when you have that, you need less. Look, it's like social skills, right? When you have the right internals and you have the right vibe, you need less social technique. When you have horrible internals and a negative vibe, you need a lot of technique to cloud over that, okay? So this series of videos, I've really tried to hit it from different angles thus far, and I've tried to use relatable examples, things like relationships. I feel like everybody's been in a bad relationship as a metaphor for the many other things going on in your life. And I hope what it's doing is it's beginning to get you realizing really like the opportunity cost of what you get yourself involved with, the very, very steep opportunity cost, but also the incredible opportunity that you could have. And so your life has to begin with architecting itself around creating that beautiful space where you're present in a high focus state, in a high momentum state, having the time to work at an elite level, present to the moment, the right values, being connected, as Eckhart Tolle would say, to staying present as your primary purpose and acting from that foundation. The Tao Te Ching, like we talked about, recognizing the natural rhythms of life and going with them to propel you forward, major component motivation. The ideas in the Bible of having real values, not just virtue signaling, not just viewing just winning in the establishment, getting their approval as a good thing. If anything, it should be the opposite. And what is a truly great life? How that energizes you, how that gets you into another level of your psyche, of your soul, that brings energy into you, aligns you to the energy of life, and it moves through you in almost a supernatural way that everybody else is just jaw-dropped. What that will do for you, your life, and everybody around you. So just understanding these things can change your life. And like we said here, having that foundation, working on that foundation, even when you're being pulled in a million different directions, is what's gonna get you that conscious will, that discernment, that access to flow, that shows you what's truly important in life. Then you put up the castle walls, and they're gonna be assaulted many times, but you're just gonna keep building and building those walls higher and higher, getting clearer and clearer what it is that you want inside that castle, having better boundaries, having better discernment, and almost like the castle being here, and just going blink, okay, that doesn't belong there, that doesn't belong there. That doesn't mean to become this boundaries ninja that gets get rid of everybody in your life. You gotta give them a chance. That doesn't belong there. Oh, this gets let in. Put down the drawbridge. This gets let in. And just watch how in a year or two, your focus, your time, your momentum, your genius, your brilliance, your connection to life will go up and up and up. I hope this helps. And I've been just on this tour all through the Northwest, sharing ideas, just having fun myself. Like, what a great life. Just having fun with myself and my family, checking out the world, and just stopping in every day to do a quick video to connect with you at some of my favorite places. I hope that you're enjoying it. And I love you very much. And we'll be back with more soon. Peace.